It's about building trusted relationships and how we communicate and exchange information. It's about exchanging information between the various agencies, and not law enforcement only in government, but the private sector, building that trust and relationship where we can get on the phone, talk to somebody, exchange information which may be of interest to us. And that's what I got out of the way that they operated over in the United States. That trust and building of relationships where they could go up to somebody and say, look, I've just discovered this, I think it may be of interest to you, you want to have a look at it. And that's the way that I like to operate here in New South Wales. There's certainly a cultural shift to be done, with shifting paradigms, I guess. The way that I see it, law enforcement and or security is not just our responsibility. It's the business community and the community itself, the general community, all have a responsibility not only to be educated but to contribute in relation to reducing whatever that may be, whether it be crime or whether it may be the incidence of crime, whatever that may be. We all have to contribute and we all have to form that partnership to work along those lines. Otherwise, we're not going to achieve the end goals that we're after. We're in the process of co-locating with the Australian Federal Police. This is my cybercrime unit. In that respect, why that's important is because, as I said earlier, the landscape has shifted. There are no more borders. Australian Federal Police provide us with the opportunity, with their liaison officers, to communicate right around the world. With the advent of technology, particularly in relation to cyber, apart from providing that anonymity, you can have somebody committing some tremendously huge crimes and serious crimes from their own room. That changes the landscape considerably, where traditionally we had somebody, for instance, going into a bank committing an armed robbery. That's now reduced to an insignificant level. Whilst it still occurs, it's reduced to the extent where it's minimal. So now you've got the landscape where you have individuals, through the cover of anonymity, can be anywhere in the world and can take your money, my money, anytime they want to. The other aspect of it with fraud and technology is that it's important to build those partnerships with the private sector. As I said earlier, building the partnerships with the banks initially and the financial sector is very important because we all have an interest in that. Law enforcement, we can't do it on our own. We rely on the security, we rely on government, and we rely on other law enforcement agencies. The way that the environment is changing with technology, we're now more towards transnational crime. So we all have to get together and work collegiately and collaboratively if we're going to be able to have an impact on that. At the moment you have cyber, CT, organised crime, that's all interrelated. One works through the other, and we need to understand that and work towards that if we're going to be able to achieve the reduction in that particular type of crime type, because it impacts right across our environment, both economically, financially and criminally.
Now, when you talk about cybercrime, people instantly go, oh, that's all technical stuff and involving techies. But a huge part of it is human factors and people understanding how they're using technology. How are you going about addressing that with organisations?
That's an interesting and important question because it's about education and awareness. Not only educating the private sector, but educating the community, particularly the most vulnerable, because I see it there's three particular groups in the community. You have your baby boomers who really didn't grasp technology until adult life, and they're probably more self-conscious about the way they protect their identity and security. The Generation X, which probably grew up with technology in their teens, are sensible about it and are our future leaders. Then you have Gen Y, who basically have grown up with Google and Facebook being a great part of their life, the way they socially interact with each other. But anecdotal evidence shows and research that they're a lot more complacent with their privacy and their security. So that's something that we really want, the message we want to send out is about being very aware of the information you're putting up on some of these social websites, because you're exposing yourself and your company and industry that you work in.